everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be continuing with part 2 of the series, Stages of Reunion. And today I'm going to be going over parts 3 and 4. Parts 3, First Contact, and part 4, First Meeting. So First Contact is basically where you find each other. You get that ancestry result and you see the parent-child match. And so there you have finally made first contact. And now somebody has to reach out to one or the other. So when you first reach out and you have that first message to each other, basically what is going to transpire is either acceptance or rejection. One party, either both parties will be in acceptance of moving forward with getting to know each other and building some type of relationship, or seeing where a relationship would go, not necessarily building it, but laying down the building blocks, the foundation, or rejection happens. Now, the first contact generally is short and sweet. Mine was basically, like 2 paragraphs, it was very weird. I mentioned how surreal it was, and I said that it was awkward and to please excuse anything that might have seemed awkward. And I told her I'm open for communication if that is what she was looking for. And I gave her a couple of different ways to contact me. I told her my Facebook was open so that she could basically look at me, because I wanted her to be like, okay, who is this person? Because that way she could do it on her own time and she doesn't need me to do it. And then she wrote back and gave me her email and agreed that we could move forward with getting to know each other. So there was acceptance on our part. So during this part, you begin to learn about each other. First contact can be anywhere from a couple of days to a couple months to a couple of years. Not everybody goes right into a first meeting after contacting each other. My advice would also be to take some time. My daughter and I took 11 months before we actually met. And I tell you, it was probably one of the best things we did in our relationship, because it gave both of us time to get to know each other, and me time to grieve a lot of things that were starting to bubble up, and I'll get to all of that later. But so back to acceptance. So you start to learn about each other. You start to, email. My suggestion would be to email, or maybe set aside some time to text. I wouldn't even do FaceTime or anything like that yet. Just take some time and do it regular way. Me and my daughter would exchange emails like once a month. And they began to get really lengthy because it was a conversation within each of the emails. So we ended up moving to Messenger after about 6 months. But we were able to really start to get to know each other, and she got to realize that I wasn't a threat, or I didn't want to be motherly or, take over or anything like that. So it allowed a lot of that to happen calmly and in a nice, slow manner. Generally during this time, the adoptee will ask, who their birthfather is, medical questions, and the adoption story, and the pregnancy story. Those types of things are generally what an adoptee will ask. Birth moms, on the other hand, will ask things like, are you happy? Are you healthy? Did your parents raise you right? Were you treated well? Those are the things that we want to find out. Now, with that said, a lot of adoptions start as open, so you kind of know a little bit. But when I gave up my daughter, my adoption was closed. So, and they do still happen today. So that's why I refer to things the way I do. Anyways, but this whole process is surreal, and you are in shock. For like the first 2 weeks, I was in a great deal of shock, because it's, but good shock. Not bad shock, like surreal, like I can't believe I found her. I can't believe I found my daughter. Like, I can't believe it's real. So you're in a great deal of shock, at least the first 2 weeks. And the feeling is just, it's wonderful. It's an overwhelmingly happy feeling. I did start to relive some stuff. Things started to bubble up, and I started to remember things, and, you know, things that I had pushed down deep inside. But, so those types of things do start to rear their ugly heads during the first contact. Adoptees, on the other hand, they may experience what's called coming out of the fog. Now, coming out of the fog is, I've heard birth moms use it too, but I've also heard that some adoptees don't like that birth moms use it. So I stopped using the reference towards myself. But it's basically where you start to realize that all the happy adoption propaganda that you were fed your whole entire life is not actually factual. And for example, like, adoption is beautiful, and you were saved, and aren't you glad that aren't you grateful? You should be grateful. And coming out of the fog, and realizing that adoption is trauma, and that there is a lot of emotions that you either push deep down inside or disassociated from. Well, those are kind of the same. Anyways, so you do start to feel some overwhelming emotions. So I'm just going to pop in here really quick and take a moment and ask that if you are really enjoying this content, if you could please hit that like button down below. It would really help me out, and it would help to get this pushed out to other people that also may be needing this type of information. All right, so now moving on to the first contact, but rejection. So sometimes what happens is the birth mom is going to reject reunion with the adoptee. And a lot of times this is because the adoptee was kept a secret. And, there's a lot of embarrassment that goes along with this part of the birth mom's life. I am not condoning any of this. I could never be that way with my daughter, but I'm sharing it because there are people that have gone through this, and they do feel this way. A lot of times, so they're kept a secret from their spouses or their children, and nobody knows, and they feel that if they divulged that information, that they did have a child out of wedlock, that their lives would basically, in essence, be destroyed. Sometimes also they are afraid of reliving the past, and they feel that if they went through reunion, that they wouldn't be able to handle it, and they would have a mental breakdown. So that is another reason why birth moms may reject. Then there's also sometimes where birth moms think that they become wealthy throughout their life, and they think that the adoptee is trying to come back and get some money or get something from them. Some birth moms have an extreme amount of guilt for not raising the child. Sometimes this happens when adoptees are mistreated by their adoptive parents, and so now they feel extremely guilty for it. Or sometimes they're still raised in a proper household and everything is fine, but they still have extreme guilt. And lastly, it's back to, what I mentioned in the last video, part 1, about being jailed. There were, agencies that, pushed that if we went into reunion with our children, that we would be jailed because we signed our rights away and we had no right to know our children. So that there are women that are fearful of being prosecuted because of reunion. Now, on the flip side, adoptees also may not want to be reunited. They may have a ton of disenfranchised grief that fuels fear. And that fear may be secondary abandonment or secondary rejection, so that they don't want to have to go through all of that again later on down the line. Maybe they start building a relationship with the birth mom and then birth mom pushes them away again. They fear that, so it's just easier to say, no, I'm just going to stay on my own. And then again, as I mentioned also in the last part, they have a ton of adoptee loyalty. Their parents are still alive and they don't want to hurt them. So because of that, they will say no to reunion with their birth mother because they don't want to, cause any disruption in their family. And they want to, make sure that their parents don't feel hurt or angry if they start a relationship with their birth mother. And of course, they could be angry. They could be angry that they were given up for adoption. That is definitely a valid reason for an adoptee to reject reunion with their birth mother. They could have a ton of adoption trauma, and it just creates this emotional havoc inside them where they don't want to have to do any other emotional work in reunion. And then lastly, perhaps they have gotten a little bit of a glimpse of their birth mother or birth father, and they see that their morals aren't the same. They don't have the same political views, and that they're just too different, and they don't think that they can, enter into a reunion and have something actually productive come out of it. So that is also a reason why some adoptees choose not to go into reunion with their birth mother. Now, I just want to mention here also birth fathers, which basically there are two reasons why birth fathers may reject the adoptee. The first one is that they didn't know that the adoptee was born. That they had another child out there. And because of such, they don't want to disrupt their family as it is. Not saying it's right, but I'm just saying that this is a reason why some birth fathers do not want to enter into reunion. Another reason is that they did know about the child and choose to keep the child a secret away from their wife and children, and they do not want to enter into reunion for fear of disrupting their family. And the same thing goes for extended family. Extended families kind of sometimes push away rather than welcome the adoptee, so they end up, not wanting a relationship, and they don't engage with them at all. And not only extended family, immediate family too. My family is not very active with my daughter, and it breaks my heart. I wish that they would want to reach out to her, but I can't force them to. So it's basically me and my daughter. So I'm actually going to end it here, folks. This was a long one. This is part 2. I'm actually going to turn this into 5 parts now because this video went a little bit longer. So look for number 4, first meeting, in the next video. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.